And then we would put on the label if, you know, we were you.
I think it's just a bumblebee.
It's just a bumblebee, okay.
Common bumblebee.
Common, that's the common name, the common bumblebee.
I am not sure. Don't include any of this. I'll take a little disclaimer. It's like, if you don't put labels on, you will not get credit for this.
We don't have grades in this class. So today, we're gonna pin a few insects to try to show you how it's done. Like, we've got a rather diverse selection here.
This right here is our spreading board. It's used to spread the wings of different insects while we pin them. And they'll dry in that position and stay that way. This is a pinning block. It's used to position the insects and the different labels at the correct heights. We have our labels. For this class, there will be a main collection label, which has the locality, the date, and the collector. And then there will also be a determination label, which has information about the taxonomy and who determined that label. This right here is our collection box. This is where all the insect specimens are going to be stored. And the kit also comes with some pins. Yeah, this is what we're going to be using for this demonstration.
And what's that? We'll get to that in a second. Oh, and the tweezers. It seems obvious, but...
We have some forceps as well.
Sorry, forceps, wow. Okay.
No, it doesn't bother me. I call them tweezers once, and someone gave me the dirtiest look I've ever seen. I don't care if we call them tweezers, it's fine.
You're gonna get the fine movement ones, which are kind of small, and then the big flat ones. All right, what do we have here, Evan?
This is a cicada, and right next to it is its shedding. So Avalon found this really cool specimen right as it was emerging from underground. So this is what it used to look like. And so the way we're going to pin this is hemipterans, you look at this kind of triangle shape right here on the thorax. And you're going to pin it slightly to the right if you can. If it's a really small triangle, you can poke right through the center. But when you're pinning, it's often nice to put the specimen on a softer surface. So we're using this foam that's included in the collection kit. And you're going to stick the needle through this first layer of exoskeleton. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the pin lines up when viewed from the front and then also from the side.
That it's going sort of perpendicularly up.
Yes, I would make adjustments as needed before you go through the second layer of exoskeleton on the ventral surface. So when we're using the pinning block, it's good to place the specimen on a hard surface like a table. You're going to slowly move the pin down until you can't push it any further. And that's about the height that the insect should be. This next level adjacent to it is for the different labels. We're going to pin the main label first, which has the locality. So we're going to put that right onto the pinning block as well. Actually, it might be better just
to sort of make a hole first and then use the block. Oof, careful.
It's a soft specimen, so that would have been really bad if it was a hard specimen. But once the label is on, you're going to put it into the second stage of the pinning block and then push it down. And that's about the height of the label.
Beautiful.
The third level is for another label, the determination, which has the taxonomic information. This time what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to poke a tiny hole, get the hole started with a separate pin. Right. The pin's just poking out of that second label. And to make sure it has the correct height, we're going to use this pinning block. That makes it so we have enough separation to remove the labels if we need to later.
So the next step, we have this somewhat unremarkable looking thing that in life is beautiful. It's a Photuris firefly. Yeah, so you can see the abdomen has some glowing segments in life.
So despite being called a firefly,
or a lightning bug.
Or a lightning bug. Both those are incorrect. These are beetles. Beetles have a often hard wing cover called an elytra, or elytron, plural is elytra. And that's actually where we're going to pin this beetle. So we're going to aim for the upper right section right about here. So after we get it through, we're going to do that same thing we did with the cicada, where we're going to try and make sure it's even. They kind of have a femme fatale thing
They're
going,
a bit
right?
sexy, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Trick males of different species.
They do. They lure in males of other species with their flashes and then eat them. Evan just used the pinning block to get the beetle to a proper height. You can see it makes a right angle with the pin. It's really just, he's done a beautiful job. So next up,
we have our bumblebee. For this and the last specimen, they're a little bit smaller than the really large cicada. And so we're going to be using slightly smaller pins. The small pins are really great for, well, small insects, but the problem is they bend, as you can see with the leftmost pin. The right pin's going to hold a lot more weight, so really large specimens, but they could actually damage some smaller specimens or even like hide the characters.
So for this nice generic bumble over here, we're gonna use maybe a small to medium.
Yeah, I would say like we could use the biggest pin, but I would probably use one that's slightly smaller. This is a Hymenopteron, and so with this insect, the thorax is going to be where you place the pin, right through, and you want to do it slightly right of center. The reason why you do that is because there might be some identifying characteristics right along the back. This one looks correct from this side, but if I were to rotate it, you can see that it's off center. So we're going to just try and correct that. I'd still be a little off, but it's better. Certainly.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
So we're going to take this down to the pinning block. So this again gives us the correct height.
So we got our boy, and we're gonna try to make him look less helter-skelter.
What we're going to do is we're going to take the pin and place it pretty deep into the foam on the pinning board. It's made about here. And then we're going to use our other needles to try and position the legs differently. So if we want the legs to be kind of splayed out a little bit.
Ah, yes. Okay. I found it dead on the sidewalk when I was walking home.
That's more evidence as it could be a drug.
Okay.
Some colonies will like cull the males.
So you can really get artistic with this type of a...
This is also a good technique because you can make sure that all the identifying characters are in view.
So what's the chance of us accidentally popping a leg off here?
It's not non-existent. The nice thing is these specimens are pretty new, which means that they're soft. If the specimen hardens, the harder it gets, the easier it is to knock something off. There are things you can do to make specimens reusable. You could soften them in like these humidity chambers, but then you risk damaging them in other ways.
Mold.
Mold primarily, yeah.
Alright, so next up we have a dragonfly. We can't just really stick a pin through this, right?
No, looking at the wing venation could be important for some of these dragonflies. And it also, just having a pin like this, you can see it's like kind of tall. It's going to get in the way of the cap of the box, and it just doesn't look very nice. And so what we're going to actually do is we're going to spread it using the spreading block.
Spreading block. So that's what this piece of foam in your kit is, which currently has a common bumble in it. Alright, so wait, sorry, I missed it. Evan's putting the pin in the same kind of
So this
upper thorax region.
Yeah, so we're going to start the same way we typically do, where it's just like make sure that the pin is aligned, and then we're going to take this specimen and we're going to place it into this pinning board, or this spreading board.
Ah, so the abdomen goes in the middle sort of area.
Yeah, so the abdomen goes into the groove. And so the idea is that we're going to try and spread these wings out so that they're on display. Sometimes what I found to be helpful is actually kind of holding the abdomen in by placing pins around it. Otherwise the specimen rotates a little bit.
Oh, I see. So they're just sliding the forceps in and gently prying the wings open. And then what, we pin them in place?
So what we're going to do, we have these glassine slips of paper that are actually just a glassine envelope that's included in the kit. And we just cut it to size.
Evan cut it. He's being modest.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to use that glassine envelope to hold the wings in place. So once we get them into the position we like, we'll just put a pin through the top, another pin at the bottom, and then that holds those wings where we want them.
Beautiful. And then we just put it in the final collection like this?
We'll let it dry for a few days, and then after that we'll move it to the collection.
The wings will harden in place.
Yes, and so it'll look like this after we remove the paper.
Next up,
Insects you typically are going to really want to spread are these butterflies.
we're using a thin pin because it's a small insect, and just really trying our best to pin it right through the abdomen. Don't worry about getting it on the right side or anything like that. You just want it straight through. Oh, you can see the little snoot. Oh, bless. I would use the pinning block after the wings are spread,
Yeah.
when it's dried fully. You can see it's nicely posed. And we have to be really careful with these wings because the more you touch them, the more scales fall off and the worse it looks.
There's so much like tension holding the wings up that it kind of makes it a little difficult. And we're going to kind of do this in stages because this isn't the way we want the wings to ultimately be, but it makes it easier to work with if you just kind of get it out of the way.
Like when somebody's cutting your hair and they put, the little clip in. Very similar idea. Evan doesn't even know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
Alright, so now we have it looking like this, which is not how a lot of pin butterflies look, right?
No. For me, this is kind of like an intermediate stage. What we're going to want to do is we're going to try and push the forewings up further so we can display more of the ventral wing. We're going to try and kind of grab these wing veins and slowly push it up a little bit.
Oh wow, this is actually super instructive. I don't know how, I think I would grab it with, I don't even want to say what I would do.
You'd use like forceps?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and loosen this piece of paper just a little bit to reduce the tension. And then I'm going to just move it up. Like right there, maybe even a little further. And right about there.
Beautiful. So he's pulled the two wings apart now.
So it might require some more adjustment afterwards, but we're still getting it a little closer to where we want it. A little further. I moved the top wing up, but I think the hind wing can move a little further out too. It's not a great place for the hind wing to be.
So you can see all of the front wing, obviously, and the back wing, a good portion of it is revealed. And you can see by doing that, we uncovered these orange spots on the back, which might be a character, who knows? So butterflies, when properly pinned, become two-dimensional objects.
Yeah.
Last up, we have another bee, or is it? It's not, it's a moth.
This moth is, we're going to choose to pin it kind of how we did the bee. But
it's trying to be a bee after all.
you can spread it if you want to, like we did the other butterfly, or the other Lepidopteran. So again, the upper right part of the thorax, we're going to pin it right through.
Oh, it looks great from this side.
Now we're going to rotate it again.
Hello. Legs are a bit wonky.
The legs are a little bit wonky, and I would say that the pin probably needs to be rotated just slightly. And then we're going to go right straight down. Up.
You lost a leg? We lost a leg. Okay, perfect. So when this happens, don't panic. Don't panic. That's rule number one. Just make peace with it. Or if you really can't, you can put it in the thing right next to your insect.
Yeah, what you can do is you could put it in a little envelope if there's a key identifier on that leg. Some people will like attach it to a little slip of paper and then pin that as well.
Or you could glue it back on.
Or you could glue it back on, yeah.
People do that as well. Not joking.
So we're going to take it back to the pinning block.
Oh, it's got such a cute little face. All fuzzy like a dog.
And since its legs are kind of curled up,
We're gonna arrange the legs.
sometimes it helps to secure the abdomen so it doesn't just rotate around the pin.
And so you're grabbing actually the tarsal claws with the pin and using that to pull the leg. It's a very good technique. Similar to the butterfly wings, actually, in a lot of cases, this is kind of a back and forth process. You move one thing, a bunch of other stuff moves, you move it back, and by sort of pushing and pulling and a lot of patience, you can really get it nicely arranged.
So one of the reasons we include forceps is I think when they get really stuck in there, it's just easier to use those.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh, and it lost its other leg.
Perfect. One fewer legs to worry about. Lovely. You can store the spreading board inside your box, but you want to make sure it doesn't scoot around and rip everything up. So that's what these pins are for, along the side here. Now, if you turn in insects without labels, you get no credit. If you pin properly, by the end it looks like some sort of horrible torture, some extremely grotesque medieval activity, but in a few days, they will look beautiful. And with the magic of television, our insects are completed. They have finished drying and they're ready to go to their final display site. So Evan, would you please demonstrate how to unpin an insect?
Sure. So one of the first things you're going to want to do is make sure you have enough clearance. If we want to get this dragonfly out, it'd probably be a good idea to move the firefly first. Something I like to do, at least when the foam is this thickness, is just push it all the way down so that the pin touches the bottom. So we're going to move these glassine envelopes, set them aside. I like to put the pins back into something so like the tips aren't going to be out there to step on or to poke yourself with.
And then you grab it by the middle pin. It should all be attached. Very
pull it right
nice.
And as you can see, the wings stay splayed out.
Even the legs, if you push them, they won't really move.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of locked in place.
And so like if I were to try and move these legs, before it actually moved, it would just break off.
Right.
So once the specimen's hardened, you really just want to handle it just with the pin.
And then we would put the labels on it.
If we had made labels, we would be labeling the specimen. So for organizational purposes, I think it's a really good idea to try and keep specimens of the same grouping together. So in our box, sorry, we'll just move this one out of the way, and its skin.
Oh yeah, put those together, right?
But so we have two different specimens here that are from the order Lepidoptera. So we have this sulfur butterfly, and then we have this bee mimicking moth. When we submit our collection, you're going to want to put those next to each other. So you'll group them first by, like if you have multiple copies of the same species, and then by genus, family, order, etc.
Right, there he goes. So you would not put the bee mimicking moth next to the bee.
Yeah, no, that makes it even more confusing.
That's very confusing. You want to show that you know that it's not a bee.
So
putting
yeah,
it-
definitely arrange it by taxonomy.
Oh, lovely.
So here's our other spread specimen,
Oh, just gorgeous.
and then we'll just set it right down next to the other one.
Oh, there, they're friends. And our last one, the bee.
For this last specimen, we went through a lot of effort to pull its legs out so that they weren't just
Curled
up.
under wretchedly.
Yeah, so now we you can see that those legs stay in that position.
For all time, really. It's going to look like it's in the middle of flight or getting ready to take off. All right, so how many points would we get for our collection? We've got 6 specimens,
I think
but the diversity of orders is really high.
Yeah, so they're worth 4 points per order.
Okay, so
this is subject to change though, but 4 points per order and then 3 per family.
okay, so we got 5 orders, 20 points, 6 families, surely. We don't know what they are, but
Yeah, so you need to correctly identify the family,
Oh.
but potentially then you get an additional 3 points for each one of those.
okay,
families.
we have at least 20 points. What's the maximum?
It's written in the syllabus.
Cool. Yeah, we'll edit that in.
So eventually you're going to place all the specimens into a collection box. And once there, you just need to keep an eye on it. If you start seeing things like little bits of powder or something appear below the specimen, that may mean that you have an insect infestation on your hands.
In your insects.
So you may have what are known as dermestids, which are these little carpet beetles that eat dead material. If that happens, what you should do is you should take your entire collection and freeze the entire thing. And that'll kill any dermestids in the collection.